Liberal TV host publicly mocks Barron Trump. His response silences the entire room. The stage is set, the lights are blinding, and the crowd buzzes with the kind of energy that only live television can create. At the center of it all, behind a sleek, polished desk, sits a well-known liberal talk show host, famous for their biting humor, sharp critiques, and unapologetic jabs at political figures. The show's topic tonight? The future of politics. But like a hunter circling its prey, the host has other plans. With a sly smirk, they shift gears. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the golden elephant. A pause for effect. The audience chuckles. The host leans in, eyes twinkling with mischief. Barron Trump, the kid born into a skyscraper, never had to work a day in his life, yet somehow some people think he might have a shot at politics? Come on. The audience erupts into laughter, feeding off the energy, emboldening the host to continue. I mean, let's be real. When was the last time he stepped into a grocery store or paid a bill? You think he knows how to budget? The guy probably thinks a student loan is a new Tesla model. Another burst of laughter. The host lets it ride, basking in the validation. It's all so easy, because that's what the world expects, right? The rich kid, the son of a controversial figure, an easy target, a symbol of privilege, a punchline wrapped in a last name. But in the audience, sitting with a posture so relaxed it borders on defiant, Barron Trump watches. His face unreadable, his expression steady. He doesn't flinch, doesn't react, doesn't even blink. He simply waits. And then, slowly, the camera finds him. The laughter dims. A few people in the audience notice his stillness, the weight of it. He leans forward slightly, elbows on his knees, fingers intertwined. And just like that, the energy shifts. For the first time tonight, the host falters. Well, Barron, since you're here, they say, voice laced with mock graciousness. Why don't you tell us what it's like being born into a billion-dollar empire? Must be tough. A smattering of nervous chuckles. The bait is cast. The trap is set. And yet, Barron simply exhales, reaches for the microphone, and stands. The room quotes. The moment is his. The host leans back, a confident smirk settling on their face as they glance toward the panelists, as if expecting them to join in. One of them chuckles hesitantly, another shifts in their chair, looking away. The host sees this and pushes forward, emboldened by the power of the stage, the security of an approving audience. You know, history has a funny way of repeating itself, they muse, voice dripping with mock wisdom. We've seen presidential children before, some who've tried to carve their own path, others who simply rode their last name into irrelevance. I mean, look at, well, we don't need to name names, do we? The audience chuckles knowingly. Barron Trump still hasn't moved. He remains seated, composed, expression unreadable. It is the kind of silence that unsettles, the kind that makes people wonder if they've pushed too far. The laughter is still there, but it's starting to waver, uncertain. The host doesn't notice, or maybe they do, and don't care. They continue. See, this is the problem, they say, gesturing broadly. Some people think just because they're born into power, they're destined to lead. But it takes more than a famous last name. It takes intelligence, strategy, vision. And let's be honest, do we really believe he has any of that? Another burst of laughter. The audience is still engaged, still playing along, but there's a shift, subtle but growing. Some are beginning to sense the imbalance, the unfairness of a one-sided battle. The panelists exchange looks. One clears their throat as if to interject, but the host steamrolls past them. You know what I think? They lean forward, resting their elbows on the desk, eyes gleaming. I think we should hear from the man himself. I mean, he's sitting right there, isn't he? Barron, tell us, what's it like living in the shadow? Of your father? The smirk widens. The room tightens. The energy changes. And then, from the depths of the audience, cutting through the noise like a knife, give the kid a chance to speak. Silence. The ripple effect is immediate. The laughter dies. The murmurs fade. The host freezes, momentarily caught off guard, and Barron Trump, still calm, still watching, finally moves. He reaches forward, takes the microphone, and stands. The microphone feels cool in his hand, but Barron Trump doesn't fidget, doesn't hesitate. He stands still, composed, the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing in, yet his expression remains unchanged. There is no anger, no defensiveness, just a quiet, measured certainty. He exhales once, then speaks. I appreciate the opportunity. His voice steady, deliberate, the kind that doesn't demand attention. It commands it. And I appreciate your right to say whatever you want about me. That's the beauty of free speech, isn't it? He pauses, letting the words settle. But there's something interesting about this moment, something worth thinking about. I've been sitting here this entire time, and I haven't said a word, not one. And yet, for the past 10 minutes, I've been called entitled, out of touch, ignorant, someone not even worthy of a voice. The room stiffens. The laughter that once echoed now lingers awkwardly in the background, like a joke that has soured mid-sentence. Barron tilts his head slightly, eyes sweeping the room, not accusing, not condemning, just observing. It's funny, isn't it? He continues, voice calm but unshakable. We talk a lot about fairness, about giving people a chance, about not judging someone before we hear their story. But that's exactly what's happened here. You don't know me. You don't know what I've done, what I stand for, or even what I believe. But you made up your mind before I ever opened my mouth. The host shifts in their seat, suddenly less comfortable, but Barron doesn't give them a moment to seize control of the conversation. He leans forward slightly, his voice neither raised nor strained, yet it carries through the room with weight. When I was younger, I learned something valuable. People will always assume they know you before they actually do. I was told to let them talk, to let them believe whatever they wanted. Because in the end, words are cheap. Actions aren't. The silence stretches, thick, suffocating, as if the air itself has grown heavier. The audience, once so eager to laugh along, is now shifting, glancing around, processing. Some are nodding. Some are beginning to realize the irony of the situation, the hypocrisy of a conversation that claims to challenge privilege while indulging in prejudice. The host tries to cut in, a weak attempt to regain control. Barron, He lifts a hand, just slightly, but enough to make it clear. He isn't finished, and for the first time all night, the host obeys. The silence in the room is a living thing, thick, pressing, waiting. Barron Trump stands, the weight of 1,000 assumptions, hanging in the air between him and the host. He doesn't waver. He doesn't falter. He simply exhales and drops the bombshell. You see, he says, his voice calm, even measured. People have spent years telling me who I am. They've crafted stories about me, shaped a narrative, without ever asking me a single question. They assume privilege means detachment, that a last name defines character. But here's the thing, you don't know me at all. The host opens their mouth as if to interject, but Barron doesn't stop. His voice isn't raised, but it doesn't need to be. The sheer force of the truth behind his words is enough to command the room. For years, I have been working on something that no one talks about. Not because it's secret, but because it doesn't fit the image you've created of me. I've been funding schools in underprivileged communities. I've helped create educational programs that give kids access to resources I was lucky enough to be born with. And not once did I ever put my name on it. Not once did I ask for recognition. The air changes. The laughter is long gone, replaced by an eerie, stunned quiet. The audience members glance at one another, suddenly unsure, suddenly aware that they have been complicit in a performance they never questioned. The media painted me as a spoiled kid, Barron continues, pacing slightly, his movements deliberate. They called me an empty name, a privileged child. They made me a symbol of excess because that's the story they wanted to tell. But while they were busy talking about me, I was busy doing something. Not in front of cameras, not for clicks, but because I believe that action matters more than perception. The host fidgets, the confidence from before slipping away like sand through clenched fingers. They shift in their seat, trying to find a foothold, a way to steer this conversation back into familiar waters. But there is no safe harbor. The tide has turned, and they are stranded. Barron finally turns to them directly. His expression is unreadable, his voice sharp with a truth that cuts through the carefully constructed illusion of the show. "If I had any other last name," he asks, "would you still judge me before I even got a chance to speak?" The words hang in the air like an open wound. The audience is holding its breath. The host blinks, caught in the question, caught in the weight of their own assumptions. For the first time, they have nothing to say. A slow clap echoes through the room. At first, just one person, then another, then another. The momentum builds, and suddenly the entire room erupts into applause. It's not polite. It's not forced. It's real. It's raw. It's the sound of people waking up. The host swallows, their face a shade paler, their usual quick wit failing them. They try to smile, to laugh it off, to salvage what's left of their authority. But it's over. The moment has shifted, and no quip or deflection can undo it. Barron doesn't gloat. He doesn't smirk or revel in the discomfort of his critic. He simply exhales, nods once, and places the microphone back on the table. The conversation is over. But the impact, that will last far beyond this moment. The applause rolls through the room like a wave, uncontainable, undeniable. It starts as scattered claps, hesitant at first, but quickly builds into something unstoppable. The host, once so sure of their control over the narrative, now sits, frozen, forced to confront the undeniable shift in the room. The audience isn't laughing anymore. They aren't nodding along to cheap shots or recycled jokes. They are thinking, processing, realizing. Barron Trump, the easy target, the convenient headline, the young man who was supposed to sit still and play his part, has done something no one expected. He didn't fight with anger. He didn't retaliate with insults. He dismantled the entire game by refusing to play it. And now, standing in the eye of the storm, he delivers the final blow. Not with arrogance, not with gloating, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows he has already won. "I never asked to be in this position," he says, his voice carrying over the noise, still steady, still composed. "I never wanted to be a headline, a talking point, a symbol for people to project their opinions onto. But I also won't let people define me before I even have a chance to define myself." The room is silent again. Not the kind of silence that lingers after an awkward moment, but the kind that follows revelation. The stillness of people realizing they have just witnessed something real, something unfiltered, something that won't fade the moment the cameras stop rolling. The host clears their throat, trying to regain control, but the attempt is weak, their authority already fractured beyond repair. They force a smile, grasping at straws. "Well, Barron, I think you've certainly given us something to think about." Barron doesn't take the bait. He simply nods. "I hope so." And with that, he steps away. The audience watches him go, some standing, some clapping harder, others simply sitting in stunned silence. But one thing is clear: no one will walk away from this conversation seeing him the same way again. The host shifts in their chair, staring at the table, the weight of the moment settling in. The show was supposed to be another routine discussion, another night of entertainment and easy applause. Instead, it became something much bigger. A mirror turned back on the people who never expected to see their own reflection. Online, the clip spreads like wildfire. The headlines shift. The same media that once dismissed him now struggles to reframe the story. Barron Trump shuts down talk show host in stunning exchange. The moment everything changed. A conversation no one saw coming. But Barron, he doesn't say another word. He doesn't do interviews. He doesn't capitalize on the moment. He simply disappears from the public eye, leaving only the weight of his words behind. And that, more than anything, is what makes them unforgettable.